The object itself was more of it was definitely circular. It had specifications. I mean, it had definition to it, but you couldn't see a surface. It was just radiating such a bright light that it was blinding, and the closer it got to you, it became impossible to look at it. It was like the sun coming right at you, but it definitely had, dimensions and to it. So it was an object. I was driving down a dark country road. It's a beautiful, beautiful drive, and it's a beautiful place to look at the stars. It's out in the country, it was blossoming spring. It was a crisp night. It was clear and cold, but there was no frost. It was definitely spring-like. And off to the north, just at the corner of my windshield, was this bright, sun-like halogen circle. And, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, that's why they say, oh, you're looking at a headlight. It's not really a UFO, it's a headlight. But it was only one headlight, and it was way up in the sky, and there were no other roads around. This is in the middle of farm country. You pass pig farms, and it was cold, and it was dark, and there was just one big, huge, bright light. There was no question in my mind that this was an unidentified flying object. It was high up in the air, it was flying, and I had no idea what it was. So I sat there and stared at it a good, 15 seconds, and then suddenly it started to move towards me. I felt as if, it spotted me, it knows I saw it. So I'm like, okay, just keep calm, because it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt you. And it kept coming closer and closer. And this is about 10, 15 seconds. So it's kind of, it's a long period of time. And I'm thinking, it's not a headlight, it's not a plane, and it's coming at me at a high rate of speed. And now I'm absolutely terrified to the point where I'm trying not to. It's not funny anymore. I'm not excited. I'm absolutely terrified. The light got absolutely blinding. I started to try to drive faster, but I could feel that I was going off the road. I was on a 4x4, and I could kind of feel it getting bumpy, and so I couldn't go very fast. I was trying to run away as fast as I could. It was blinding. I couldn't see where I was going. I didn't hear anything. Suddenly, the whole car is full of light, and I can't see my hands because it's just bright. The outside, I can almost see like stark parts where trees are, as I'm passing them. And I'm thinking to myself, hurry up, get out of here, get. And then the light shuts off. It wasn't that the thing flew away, it just shut off. It was gone. Here I am driving half off the road at 70, 80 miles an hour as fast as I could go. I'm trying to pull the car back on, and I'm trying to look. I think it's got to be right over me. It couldn't have flown away that fast. It couldn't have just dodged out of here and I can't see it. It was blinding light. I saw it coming for miles. Where did the thing go? It must be right above me. And I'm looking out, and I'm too scared to unroll the windows and look out of the car. I'm too scared. I'm not going to pull off and get out of the car and see where it went. I just know it's right above me, and it's going to get me. So the whole way home, driving at light speed, I'm looking around trying to see if it's still following me. I'm checking my rearview mirror, seeing if it's behind me. I keep thinking it's got to be around. It couldn't have gone away that fast. It couldn't have just been from a bright sunlight to nothing. After that experience, my dad always had the belief that aliens were benevolent. They were nice creatures. They would do mean things if they were mean. We would have known about it by now. But after that, I've never been so absolutely terrified in my life.
In 1967 or 1968, I'm not exactly sure of the date, it was summer, probably late July or early August. My boyfriend at the time was hospitalized on the north side, and my mother and I had driven to the hospital to see him, and we were heading home. We took the Kennedy Expressway heading south, and had just gotten onto the Dan Ryan Expressway in downtown Chicago, heading south again, probably around Roosevelt Road. I believe the Dan Ryan is high at that point. And we saw a strange object in the sky. It was dusk. It was, I would say the sun there was still a little light in the sky. And we saw an object that looked like it was elliptical, and it had white lights on it that looked like they were moving around it, like this, you know, blinking sort of. And we both noticed this object, and we marked, "Oh, isn't that strange?" And we kept looking at it, and I don't even recall who was driving. I think my mother was driving. And we both watched it, and we knew it was something we had never seen before. It was moving very slowly, and suddenly it disappeared. And we were looking for buildings, high buildings for, you know, that it could have hidden behind. There were none that we could see. All of a sudden it reappeared and just moved very, very slowly along. Well, neither one of us mentioned the word UFO because, as I remember, and she remembers, that was a time when psychiatrists were saying people who see strange objects in the sky are really very unhappy people. They are searching for something outside of themselves and outside of the planet to make them happy and to bring them peace, et cetera, et cetera. So we never mentioned the word UFO. We just kept driving and sort of forgot about it. Well, the next day my father said to me, "What did you see in the sky yesterday?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "We saw a strange object." And he pulled the paper in front of me, and there on the front page of the Tribune, I believe it was, we still have the article, was an article saying that many people had seen this strange object, and one of them, whose name I believe is in the article, was a person who worked at the airport on airplanes. And he said, I'm a believer." They had described a very similar object to what we had seen, and so we connected it and feel certain we saw something unexplainable. The second experience I had was, I remember the date, it was November 10th, 1990, and I was driving from Champaign, Illinois. I had gone to visit my son, who was in Champaign, Illinois at the time. I took Route 57 to Route 80 to Route 94 to Route 20. I was going to my cottage in Indiana. I was meeting a friend there, so it was important that I arrive. As I was leaving Champaign, it was dark, it was dusk, and the sky, I was looking, I believe at the time, if I remember correctly, I could see Mars and the Pleiades in the east. And I kept my eyes as I was driving and watching that, because I love to identify, if I can, what's out there and what I'm seeing and so forth. And then I saw a bright, amber, sparkling, beautiful light as I was driving 57, sort of in the northeast. And I was thinking to myself, could that be the star Capella? I wonder if it is. And I kept driving, and I realized that it wasn't a star because it wasn't stationary. It wasn't, you know, as you drive along, something will stay in the same spot. So I was driving along at about 60 miles an hour or so, and I realized that I was coming closer to this beautiful, sparkling light. And I was heading toward a overpass, and I thought, well, when I get on the other side of this overpass, I'll be able to see what this thing is. Well, I got on the other side of the overpass, and there was nothing there. It was gone. Then I realized I could see another beautiful, sparkling light farther down the road. And again, I thought, well, as I get closer, I'll be able to see what this gone. As I approached it, as I got closer, gone. And no sign, you know, if something is there, like if it's an airplane or something, there'll be strobe lights and there'll be something left. You'll be able to see the shape of an object or something. Nothing. During the entire trip, I saw 10 of these beautiful, sparkling amber lights. When I passed Kankakee, I was maybe midpoint between Route 30 and Kankakee, and I saw 3 of these beautiful, sparkling lights lined up on the west side of the road. And I started to slow down. In fact, I was going about maybe 10 miles, maybe 5 miles an hour down Route 57, And the car in front of me, I noticed also had slowed down. I thought, well, they must be seeing these lights too. And as I approached the first one, it was to the left of me, it blinked out, completely disappeared. Nothing was there in its place. The second one started to move, and it moved. And I was driving in my Volkswagen like this. My head looking up out of the windshield, and above me was a triangle, a perfect triangle with amber lights. The point was heading east. And I don't know, the front of it, if you can call it a front on a triangle, was heading east, and it had an amber light here, an amber light here, and an amber light here. That resembled, if you've ever seen a fluorescent light in a kitchen, a circular light, the ones that I have seen always have like a little break in them. You know, this was a perfect circle of light on each corner. And instead of stopping my car and being curious about this, I was curious, I was frightened. I was very frightened. And I stepped on the gas and I kept going, as did the car in front of me. Now, whether the car in front of me saw this object, I don't know. And again, there was still another light ahead of this one, and as I approached it, it blinked out. The only one that moved was the middle one, and it moved directly over my car. And I don't know where it went because I was afraid, and I kept going. I'd never seen anything like this before, and I connected it with an intelligence somehow higher, much higher than mine, and I became fearful. Well, on Route 80, I saw nothing. Then when I got onto 94, I saw 3 more of these lights to the right of me this time. And again, each time I approached them, they blinked out, they disappeared. I got on Route 20 and hadn't seen any more. And I was almost to the road that I take to my cottage, and I have to pass the tollway. I have to pass over the tollway, and there's a nursery to the left of me. It's called Small's Nursery. At that moment, out of the sky in front of my car came a bluish white light heading right toward my car. It swerved and went over into the Small's Nursery field, and sparks flew out of the front of it. If, again, there is indeed a front of it, it was like an egg-shaped object, and it disappeared. Well, I was very, very frightened by this time, but I was almost to the cottage where I was meeting my friend, and I kept going, and that, to my knowledge, was the end of my experiences for that evening.
My first experience, although somewhat vague, happened when I was around 7, 8 years old. My brother and my parents and I were driving back from Florida to New York, where we were living, and we happened to come along this empty dirt road, and it was just at the beginning of sunset. I remember seeing some very strange lights in the sky that amazed me because it was just very odd lights, different colors. They just didn't seem your normal sky lights. And this made me want to mention it to my father, which I did. All that I can remember after mentioning that is my father looking very stern yet afraid and pushing on the gas, which to this day I can't understand because no one was around on this desolate road, and something compelled him to speed up the car at a very fast pace. After that, I had what I believe lost time. So I can't really go into that incident in detail because that's all I remember.
Almost 20 years ago, Chris experienced her second sighting while riding a train from New York City to her home on Long Island. She recounts this experience from a journal she made not long after this sighting.
My second and most dramatic sighting happened to me in my late 20s. It took place about a good 20 years ago. It was a clear, warm summer day. I was riding on the Long Island Railroad from New York City back to my home on Long Island. I sat back and relaxed and was relieved for the air-conditioned car and made sure that I got a seat with a window to view the scenery. The trip was going to take about an hour's worth of travel. About halfway through the trip, I was admiring the beautiful blue, clear sky. I noticed a very bright spot in the sky. The object was round, like the sun, but smaller and much, much brighter. It followed our train for about the last 20 minutes or so of the trip. Every time we stopped, the object would stop too. By this time, I was quite hypnotized, wondering what it could be. I was so into watching this unidentified flying object, I had no sense of what was going on around me. The least thing on my mind was that it was a UFO, since things of this nature were of no interest to me at that time. After what seemed an eternity, watching in fascination, the third thought occurred to me that just maybe this was some kind of a reflection bouncing off of a shiny metal surface somewhere. So I hurriedly changed my seat to the one opposite mine and saw that it was still there. I got up, sat down, reared to my left, then to my right. If anyone was watching me while I was doing these maneuvers, they must have thought I was crazy. Finally convinced it was not a reflection, I settled back down, never taking my eyes off of the object. I was in a trance and didn't realize it. I almost felt hypnotized and couldn't take my attention away from it. Finally, about 2 stops away from where I was to get off, the train stopped to let passengers off. The unidentified flying object stopped along with us as usual. Then, quite suddenly, it took off, made impossible weird turning angles and gyrations, much too complicated and way too fast for it to be something ordinary. It shot straight up, and then puff, it was gone in a twinkling of an eye. My emotions afterwards were of elation, wonderment, mystery, knowing I had seen some kind of a phenomena. And I remember mentioning it to my brother when I got home, never to mention it again for fear that people would think I was hallucinating. I am amazed that still today I can remember this incident so clearly from my past. But this wasn't something you see every day in broad daylight, and the memory will never leave me. I know without a doubt this was a UFO. I feel that we are being contacted by more than one type of alien culture. And this is why you're going to get different variations on abductee experiences. There are so many theories out there today. It could be one or it could be all in the above. It all depends on the type of alien that has contacted you. There are 2 camps in the UFO community, one having contact with malevolent beings, the other with the benevolent ones. Most of my experiences have been with what we'll say the bad ones, and therefore I feel that their contacting us is very negative. The conflict is where the ones that have contact with the good, supposedly good aliens are always pointing the finger at the other camp, saying, you're missing the point. You're not getting the true message. They're really here to help us, and you'll get used to being abducted because don't you know, you really gave them permission to do this in the first place in order to help mankind reach a higher level. And I say baloney, because if these aliens that have contacted me have been on this earth for thousands of years, don't you think by now they have studied us so long that they would know if they're hurting us in any way or not? Sure they know. Sure they know. And kidnapping is not consenting. All in the name of good? I doubt it very much. I mean, a lot of abductees have gone through very painful experiments at their hands. And how can you logically say, oh, this is for the good of mankind, you'll get used to it, it's a spiritual thing? My main concern is that this doesn't turn into some kind of cultish religion. There's definitely a cover-up of some kind going on. That everyone is sure of. There's definitely something out there, okay, that is a phenomenon. Everyone's sure of that. So with just those two things that everyone knows, what are they? What is it? That's enough. You know, regardless of all the other stuff that people are saying, just those two things, what are they? Why don't we know what they are or what's happening? So something is definitely going on in both respects, UFOs and government cover-ups. They're hand in hand.